detailed analysis on a subject that is of current significance. I'm Tina Jha. Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi is set to retire on 17th November. And keeping in tradition with his predecessors, he is set to demit office with a bang, delivering some important judgments. While the verdict in the longest-standing Ayodhya land dispute was pronounced on Saturday, the outgoing Chief Justice of India will deliver 4 other important judgments in the 3 remaining working days of the week. These include the Sabarimala review plea, review petition in the Rafale deal, contempt case against former Congress President Rahul Gandhi, and a petition seeking clarification on whether the office of the CJI comes under the ambit of the RTI Act or not. On the show today, we'll talk in detail about these 4 cases and also some other judgments that will be pronounced by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi in the last few days of his tenure. So after delivering a historic judgment in the long-standing Ayodhya dispute, now the Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi-led Supreme Court bench is set to deliver its verdict in another matter of faith, that is the Sabarimala case. The order on review petitions challenging the decision to allow women of all ages to enter the Sabarimala Ayyappa temple in Kerala will be delivered by a 5-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice of India before he retires on the 17th of November.
The long-standing Ayodhya verdict is done and dusted, and now all eyes are on the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, for the crucial verdict on the Sabarimala review petitions. The 4-1 verdict delivered by a 5-judge constitution bench headed by then CJI Deepak Mishra had noted that the dualistic approach against women degrades their status and violates their fundamental rights. The judgment had allowed women of all age groups the right to enter the Ayyappa shrine at Sabarimala and participate in the 40-day ritual pilgrimage. The order was challenged by the Travancore Devaswam Board, the Pandalam royal family, and groups of devotees through a total of 65 review petitions. The petitions were heard by a constitution bench comprising CJI Gogoi and Justices A.M. Khanwilkar, R.F. Nariman, D.Y. Chandrachud, and Indu Malhotra. The bench reserved its order on these review petitions after hearing them for a full day on February 6, 2019.
See, Sabarimala is one of the landmark cases where the Supreme Court in an earlier judgment allowed the entry of all women of all ages, whereas the earlier practice was that the menstruating women were not allowed to enter the temple, being a historical tradition, as well as the celibate nature of the deity of Sabarimala, and therefore that Supreme Court judgment allowed it, and that is under review. In fact, the board of Sabarimala has also challenged that, and that is pending, and we are expecting a judgment on that.
The 2018 verdict had led to massive protests and clashes in Kerala. On one side was the Kerala government and on the other Lord Ayyappa's devotees. While the Kerala government was adamant on implementing the Supreme Court order, devotees said that the practice of not allowing women into the shrine was because the deity of the temple was celibate. They also stated that constitutional morality should not be applied to matters of faith and that the judgment erred in viewing the practice as untouchability under Article 17 of the Constitution, as it did not understand the historical context. The Ayodhya judgment, with its observations regarding acceptance of faith and belief, has also raised expectations that the review plea may be in favor of Ayyappa devotees who want to continue the ritual ban on participation of women.
Now, this is a huge game changer because the Ayodhya judgment or the Ram Mandir judgment basically said that Ram Lalla is a juristic person and we have to give due credence and respect the belief of its followers. So in the same light, the review probably might now consider the thoughts, the beliefs of its followers and also of the deity being a juristic person. So this is a huge judgment that is probably going to be passed.
Actually, it all began when a group of 5 women lawyers challenged Rule 3B of the Kerala Hindu Places of Public Worship Rules 1965, which authorizes restriction on women of menstruating age from entering the Shabarimala shrine. They moved the apex court after the Kerala High Court upheld the centuries-old restriction and ruled that only the priest was empowered to decide on traditions. Senior advocate Indira Jaisingh, who represented the petitioners, argued that the custom is discriminatory in nature and that women should be allowed to pray at the place of their choice. However, the temple management has contended in court that they are allowed to frame rules for the shrine without the state's interference. They also said that it wasn't discriminatory as the tradition was born from the belief that the deity is an eternal celibate. The Shabarimala shrine, dedicated to Lord Ayyappa, is one of the most famous temples in Kerala. The Travancore Devaswam Board manages the temple. It is likely that the ruling will have an impact on all temples and their customs across the state. The Supreme Court order is eagerly awaited as the next Shabarimala pilgrim season will begin from November 16th. With inputs from Anu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Another judgment of significance will be the one on the Rafale deal review petition. The petition alleges that the government hid information from the Supreme Court in the Rafale deal. A Supreme Court bench headed by the Chief Justice had reserved its order in the case in May earlier this year, and the review petition had come in response to a December 2018 verdict in which the Supreme Court had rejected allegations of government interference in the defence procurement deal, and also said that the judiciary would not interfere in the matter.
On May 10th this year, the Supreme Court had reserved its verdict on the petitions challenging its December 14 judgment against a probe into the controversial Rafale fighter jet deal. The batch of petitions had sought a review of the December judgment, which had dismissed the pleas challenging India's agreement with France to procure 36 Rafale fighter jets.
Huge questions have been asked by the opposition on the functioning of the government. Certain figures have been thrown about in the media. So it is very important because it also tells us whether the current government has been doing everything above board or not. Because it is the question, after all, of our security, of our safety, of our army, of our armed forces. So it is a very important.
The petitioners, which included lawyer Prashant Bhushan, alleged suppression of material facts from the court, saying the government had misled the Supreme Court by saying that the pricing and other details of the Rafale jet had been considered in detail by the CAG and placed before the Parliament. The petitioners pointed out that the pricing details had not been considered by the CAG and no report had been placed before the Parliament prior to the passing of the judgment. The PILs also alleged that the PMO had undertaken parallel negotiations, raising concerns about the pricing of the combat aircraft and the manner in which the contract had been signed. They also raised questions about the role of the Anil Ambani-led Reliance Group in the deal.
The first judgment, the judgment dismissed the PIL, saying that we will not get into questions of monetary issues and the thought processes of the government, etc. However, this review has been filed saying that certain facts were hidden or falsely stated before the Honorable Supreme Court. So this review is on the point whether certain information that was given to the Honorable Supreme Court that is mentioned in the first judgment, the judgment and the challenge, was correct or incorrect.
In response, the centre clarified that the Supreme Court had misread the submissions given by the MOD, as the government had not in fact said the CAG report had been tabled. The centre said that the paragraphs regarding tabling of the CAG report were only setting out the due process that would eventually be followed on the defence deal. The centre sought dismissal of the petitions on the grounds that they were seeking the review on the basis of secret stolen documents.
Rafale deal Supreme Court in an earlier judgment, which was challenged by Prashant Bhushan and others, said that there is no need to call for an investigation into the deal because this is the discretionary matter and the policy matter of the government and was done under the requirement of the government of India and defence requirements also. However, the review has been filed by others in view of certain so-called leaked documents, and therefore we are expecting some kind of a pronouncement on this also.
The December 14 judgment had said that the judiciary would not interfere in the issue, rejecting the allegations of the government interference in the defence procurement, saying it could not interfere without clear evidence of wrongdoing. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a short break on the program, but when we return, we talk about some other cases on which the Supreme Court verdict is expected this week. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. One more judgment to be delivered by a bench headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi is on whether or not the office of the Chief Justice of India comes under the ambit of the Right to Information Act. A 5-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court will pronounce its verdict on the case on Wednesday, that's tomorrow.
On 13th November, the Supreme Court will pronounce the verdict on whether or not the office of the Chief Justice of India should be covered under the Transparency Law, the Right to Information Act. The order will be passed by a 5-judge constitution bench headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi. The bench, also comprising Justice N.V. Ramanna, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice Deepak Gupta and Justice Sanjeev Khanna, had on the 4th of April reserved its order in the case. The order will be on a plea filed by the Supreme Court Secretary General against the Delhi High Court order, holding that the CJI's office comes under the ambit of the RTI Act.
CJI is a public authority. It's a public office. And therefore, if the Prime Minister's office is under, the highest office in India is under the RTI, and you can take information, why not CJI? I think CJI has nothing to hide. So therefore, except there certain exceptions can be made, say how the collegium works, what was discussed inside the collegium, those are very sensitive matters. That exceptions can be made. We don't know what kind of a judgment would be there.
The case dates back to November 2007, when RTI activist Subhash Chandra Agarwal filed an RTI in the Supreme Court seeking information on judges' assets, but the information was denied. Agarwal then approached the Central Information Commission, which asked the Apex Court to disclose information on the ground that the Chief Justice of India's office comes within the ambit of the Act. In January 2009, a plea was moved in the Delhi High Court against the CIC order, but the same was upheld. Appearing for Subhash Chandra Agarwal, Advocate Prashant Bhushan argued that the court has favoured transparency through various judgments, even before the RTI Act was brought in. But when it comes to cases relating to transparency of the court itself, the court has not been very forthcoming. In July 2010, the Delhi High Court passed a verdict stating that the office of the CJI and the Supreme Court were a public authority which would come under the ambit of the RTI Act. The High Court said in its order that the Supreme Court and the CJI have statutory duty to furnish information sought by citizens regarding the functioning and administration of the Supreme Court. But the verdict was challenged by Supreme Court Secretary General, who stated in his petition that this would create problems in judicial functioning if the administrative decisions made by the Supreme Court, including appointment of judges, became open to RTI scrutiny. Attorney General K.K. Venugopal had also submitted in court that sharing information connected with the collegium, which is under the CJI office, would make judges and the government shy and also destroy judicial independence. The Constitution Bench, led by Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi, was told by the Attorney General that if the RTI is applied to the collegium, it would create a sense of fear in the judiciary and impede a free and frank discussion between judges.
The Honorable Delhi High Court, in a judgment in, I think, 2010, if I am not mistaken, had stated that the Supreme Court and the office of the Honorable CJI is a public figure and therefore public authority, and therefore comes under the purview of the RTI Act. We are aware that RTI is basically the creature of the judiciary, saying that there should be transparency in all, and what is hidden is usually illegal, unlawful, or something that you are ashamed of. So the RTI Act purview was also percolated down and taken to mean that the CJI office and the Supreme Court is also open to RTI transparency. But it was challenged by the General Secretary of the Supreme Court, which stated that this would impinge upon the power of the Honorable Supreme Court and its functioning. So this is also before the Honorable Supreme Court. So landmark cases, questions of law, something that would change the way laws are perceived right now, those are before the Honorable Chief Justice of India before he retires.
Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi had also observed earlier that while nobody wants an opaque system, no institution can be allowed to be destroyed in the name of transparency. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And apart from the Sabrimala review plea, Office of the CJI under RTI and the Rafale case, there are a few more important cases that will be decided upon before Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi's retirement. Which are these cases? Let's talk about them in our next report.
A Supreme Court bench headed by the CJI will pronounce its verdict on a plea seeking criminal contempt proceedings against Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. The plea accuses Gandhi of wrongly attributing to the apex court his Chaukidar Chor Hai remark against Prime Minister Narendra Modi in connection with the Rafale case. Rahul Gandhi had quoted controversy on the day the Supreme Court agreed to hear the Rafale plea while making a statement to the press. A contempt case was filed against him by BJP MP Meenakshi Lekhi, who claimed that Gandhi was attributing political statements to the Supreme Court. A day after Rahul Gandhi's statement, Chief Justice Gogoi had given a clarification from the bench that the Supreme Court had never made any such political statement and it was not for the court to make such a statement. The three-judge bench had then reserved its judgment on the case after Rahul Gandhi filed an affidavit providing an apology. However, Rahul Gandhi faced the wrath of the Supreme Court as the first affidavit filed by his legal team did not contain an unconditional apology for attributing a political statement to the court, but an explanation that his words were being misinterpreted. After the bench indicated its anger, a second affidavit containing an unconditional apology and the explanation of his press statement was filed by Rahul Gandhi.
See, Rahul Gandhi made allegations, unfounded allegations against Prime Minister Modi and attributed the remarks of Chaukidar Chor Hai and illegality to the Supreme Court judgment, whereas the Supreme Court judgment had said nothing of that kind. That is why a criminal contempt case was filed by Meenakshi Lekhi and that is pending before the court, and in fact court said if you give an unconditional apology then one can look into it. Even then the apology that was so worded did not amount to unconditional apology, and therefore the review is there and we are expecting a judgment on the review.
A 5-judge constitution bench is also expected to deliver its verdict on a batch of pleas challenging the constitutional validity of the Finance Act 2017 on the ground that it was passed by the Parliament as a money bill. The centre had justified certification of the Finance Bill 2017 as a money bill, saying it has provisions that deal with salaries and allowances to be paid to members of tribunals. The 5-judge bench had reserved the judgment on April 2nd.
The Finance Act, which is the case is called the government takeover of the tribunals. Now what had happened till 2017 before the Finance Act had come into play was that the tribunal was manned or judged by a judicial appointment. The appointment had the same power, perks of an honorable High Court judge. Now in 2017 the Finance Act basically took the purview of the perks and the payment of salaries with the government saying that it is a money bill and the money bill cannot be questioned, we all are aware of that. But more importantly, that it considers the fact that the payment of salaries will be given from the government consolidated fund. So this is before this, because the PIL says that by this you are trying to infringe upon the power of the judiciary. So this is also awaited, a very, very important matter which is before the Honorable CJI.
The Supreme Court is also scheduled to pronounce on November 13th its verdict on the pleas of 17 disqualified Congress JDS MLAs of Karnataka challenging the orders of then Assembly Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar to disqualify them. Speaker R. Ramesh had disqualified the 17 MLAs of the ruling JDS Congress coalition ahead of a trust vote in July. Then Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy had resigned after losing the trust vote, which paved the way for a BJP-led government in Karnataka under B.S. Yediyurappa. By post, 15 out of these 17 assembly seats which fell vacant are scheduled on December 5th, and candidates are required to file their nomination papers between November 11th and November 18th. With inputs from Anu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
While delivering the Ayodhya verdict last week, Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi wrote himself into history by bringing to an end a 134-year-old dispute. Justice Ranjan Gogoi is also the man behind several other important judgments, including the one about the updation of the National Register of Citizens, that is the NRC in Assam, which is aimed at tackling the grave issue of illegal infiltration. Chief Justice Gogoi also headed the bench that partially overruled a Supreme Court judgment stating that photographs of top politicians other than the Prime Minister, President and the Chief Justice cannot feature in government advertisements.
Justice Gogoi has discharged one of the most happening, tenure of his of any CJI. We recently had Ram Janmabhoomi case, verdict passed. He has given one landmark judgment that comes to my notice is that a bench, Supreme Court can, refer cases to arbitration if there is no arbitration agreement, but that has to be done by the application by the parties or the written consent. This is one landmark judgment that comes to my mind. There is one more was one that's, if you recall Kanhaiya Kumar's case, the Kamini Jaiswal, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, wanted a special investigation team to be constituted to investigate the behavior of some lawyers against Kanhaiya Kumar in Patiala House. So Supreme Court dismissed that. There was another case where Govindaswamy case versus State of Kerala, where Justice Gogoi left, changed the death penalty to life sentence of Govindaswamy who had raped a woman. So that landed into a lot of controversy.